We need a sheriff that's going to stand for law and order, but that's also going to have the officers back. Point, end of story.
Does this violate the First Amendment constitutional right of these First Amendment auditors to do their job and make sure we're doing our job?
So I have had run-ins with agitators, not a First Amendment auditor. And I have to tell you, this law is the right direction for law and order.
New sheriff in town. What's going to happen with the uniforms, with the cars? Are we changing everything? Are you going to wear a big cowboy hat? I don't know.
Then I was involved in a police officer involved shooting. He attempted to run me over with a vehicle, and unfortunately I had to discharge my firearm several times. One of the last years I was there, I made 320 something arrests.
By yourself?
By myself.
Whoa. So when you got like a player, they were like, ooh. Aragu. Boom! And we're back! Welcome back to the show! Welcome to the show. Jose Aragu, Major.
Yes.
Jose Aragu running for Miami Dade Sheriff. Big news, guys. If you didn't know, we're having the candidates come through, and it's the first time in 67 years that Miami Dade is going to have an elected sheriff. And sitting in front of me right here is the possible new sheriff of Miami-Dade County, Jose Aragu. Aragu, that's an interesting last name. What's the story on that? Would you ever play sports?
So I did. I played high school sports, and but it's
what sport was it?
Football.
Football. So when you got like a player, they were like, "Goo," right?
It was more like Ragu. Right?
Oh, Ragu. Goo. What was the nickname? Ragu?
So during high school,
Yeah.
Ragu was the nickname.
Ragu. This is a cool name, man. It's
Thank
like, now up to bat. Goo. It's a cool nickname. I like it. But anyways, running for sheriff. The big spot. Historic. First time, 67 years. I want to know a little bit about you, how you started law enforcement, what you're currently doing right now, what your plans are for the future. We're going to get in all that stuff. Later on, we're going to have the hot seat where we got questions from the audience. I put it out that you were going to be joining us on the show. They sent in those questions. We're also going to be doing tabletop exercises. We're going to talk active shooters, street takeovers, AI in policing. We're going to be doing a whole bunch of stuff. I'm going to get your take and see how you're going to handle it as the future sheriff of Miami-Dade County. But first, I want to say hello to my wife. She's sitting over there. What's going on, lovely lady?
Hi.
My lovely assistant, and she's here on the DJ booth, and she has all kinds of sound effects.
Oh, yeah. Look at this.
Hey! All right, so let's get this party started, man. Let's talk a little bit about where'd you go to high school? That's a big thing in Miami-Dade County. And then move us along and get us all the way to when you became a law enforcement officer.
Sure. So first and foremost, Nick, thank you for the opportunity to be on your show. And I am a Cobra. I went to South Miami High.
Ooh.
And I grew up in the area of Westchester, West Miami.
Okay.
And so to get into my law enforcement career and how it all started, my intention was actually to be a fireman.
Oh, you're one of those guys.
So I was a Miami-Dade Fire Rescue Explorer
Okay.
at age 15.
All right.
And the fire station was right next to the police station, the West Miami police station at the time, since it's changed. And I was young. They were looking for new recruits as dispatchers and police officers. I know West Miami is a small agency, as we all know. And I was approached, hey, kid, do you want to be a dispatcher? And I said, it's an open door. I jumped on it, right? I started in the West Miami Police Department answering phones. Then I was attending high school, by the way. So I was
So you're doing
I was doing a dual road, right?
Yeah.
I was an explorer. Then I was going to high school. And I took on this endeavor because I was 18. I wasn't done with high school yet, and the opportunity came along. So I became a dispatcher. Shortly thereafter, after graduation of high school, they again told me, "Hey, kid, you're doing a great job. Do you want to be a cop?" And that's where the journey began. I started in the West Miami Police Department. It was a wonderful opportunity, great department, wonderful city. And I was there for a few years. And then I realized that I needed some more room to grow. It was a wonderful place, but everyone there was old, right? Old police officers, etc. And I said, I need to apply to be a Miami-Dade police officer because there's room for growth, there's room for opportunity.
Right.
And here I am. I'm a major. I'm currently a major in the department. I've been a major for approximately 4 years now, and I've worked in many units along the way, held all the civil service ranks. I was an executive officer, not a captain, at the Port of Miami. And it's been a wonderful career, and we can get into that.
Yeah. So where are you a major at now in the department?
So I'm currently the major of the Midwest District, which encompasses the area between Lejeune Road out to Chrome, Okeechobee to Byrd. It's one of the most populous districts. Not as much violent crime as other areas, but nevertheless very demanding in the aspects of community policing, auto thefts, robberies, domestics, right? So it's definitely a busy place. I'm there now. I'm happy and proud to report that under my leadership, the officers, because it's not me, it's about the officers, have reduced crime more than 20%, which is amazing, right? And that's compared to last year, which crime was reduced 21%. So we continue on a decline. I hope to keep it that way, and we're doing a great job.
Yeah, I really like the fact that you said officers. And sometimes, the higher-ranking officials, they want to take the credit. And the way that you said the officers tells a lot about you, right? Because in turn, you get the shine. The numbers go down, officers' hard work, you're praising them, but in the end, they're under your supervisory role that you're in. I'm supervising these guys. Everybody that's underneath me, I'm in command, and things are good. So that tells a lot about you, and I could appreciate that. Being an officer myself, let's go into some of your work history. So you're a major now. At one point, you started as an officer. Tell me a little bit about your career path.
So in the West Miami Police Department, I was a road officer, right? They did a lot of community policing there because that agency is based on community policing,
right?
As we know it. Then when I came to the county, I worked the road a short period. I was a very proactive police officer, and I was afforded the opportunity with 1 year on the job to go to a proactive burglary squad.
Nice.
So I worked the proactive burglary squad. We did a lot of great work there. Got a lot of burglary in progress arrests, and then I was afforded the opportunity to go to burglary and commercial burglary investigations, right? So I did a little bit of residential, I did a little bit of commercial burglary, person crimes, which is extremely important, all under the umbrella of a general investigations unit, which, as you know, as a police officer, you investigate a little bit of everything.
Correct.
Then I was involved in a police officer-involved shooting, right? I was in a very hot unit at the time. We were working a robbery detail one morning, and there was a robbery that occurred. My partner was almost ran over by a carjacker that had just committed a robbery to a convenience store. A small chase ensued. He attempted to run me over with the vehicle, and unfortunately I had to discharge my firearm several times, striking the subject. And I had one of those moments where you've been in a very high profile, proactive unit, and it's time that you settle down a little bit. So where can we find you on assignment, right? So I moved on. I worked at Miami International Airport, which as you know is our #1 economic engine to Miami-Dade County.
Lately, that's kind of a hot unit too, with all them scraps going on.
It definitely is, right? I think that's what happens when you start bringing these low fare carrier
Spirit
airlines to our airport, right?
Speedy.
So but nevertheless, it was a wonderful opportunity. I worked investigations there, cargo theft, baggage pilfering. I mean, you name it, right? Organized crime,
Right.
in conjunction with the FBI, the DEA. So it was a great opportunity to expand my detective portfolio, because now I was working alongside all these federal partners in one of the largest airports in our nation.
Yeah.
So worked with the Secret Service, right? Did many details for the President of the United States, actually various presidents. It was a wonderful opportunity. But then I got bored, right? I said, I'm very new at the time, and I need to go back to proactive policing. So at the time, they had established a unit called the Strategic Policing Response Team, which was a county-wide unit tackling crime in those areas that were being targeted by high crime. So I went in that direction, right? And we did phenomenal work. I was recently looking at one of my evaluations, and one of the last years I was there, I made 320 something arrests.
By yourself?
By myself.
Whoa.
And 40 of them were misdemeanors, by the way, 40 something, right?
That's
so it's
huge.
not.
That's
so
big numbers right there.
Listen, a lot of good police work,
Yeah.
right? A lot of good police work, a lot of dedication, a lot of commitment.
Let me just stop right there. There's 365 days in a year. I know.
Correct.
I'm dropping some knowledge on you if you didn't
Wow.
know this. And how many arrests?
300 and change.
300 and change. That's impressive. Yeah, that's impressive. Let me think about my numbers here.
Well, times have changed, right?
Yeah.
Times have changed.
Oh.
It's a different
No,
time.
I've had some big months. One year 64, then 1 month. Sorry, in 1 month, Officer of the Month. Just so you know, it wasn't me who got Officer of the Month. That month, I was riding with my FTO, and we would do like 5 arrests a day, right? And then he got Officer of the Month that month, and didn't even bring me up on. I did all the reports because I was learning. Didn't even get, honorable mention or nothing. So his name is up on the wall. I didn't get my creds. Shout out to DeCespedes. You're welcome.
Hey, can you ask him if he wants to come to the county?
Oh, DeCespedes, he retired.
Oh, okay.
He retired.
We would love to have that guy.
Yeah.
Maybe we can hire him back.
Yeah. I did all the arrests. I'm sitting right here. I'm sitting right here.
Do you want to be a county cop?
We can talk off camera. But anyways, so sorry not to interrupt, but I'm just saying that's very impressive. If you know anything about policing, it's 365 and you got 300 plus. That's very impressive, man. Very cool.
Look, I think we all sign up to do this job to be police officers, right? To be peacekeepers.
Right.
And then along the line, we promote and we evolve.
Right.
But my intention was never to promote. Actually, I was extremely happy being a police officer, a cop.
Right.
And my only dream was to be a canine handler because I wanted to get bad guys. But then this, I guess, has been my path.
Yeah.
So we embraced the path, and now I just dedicate myself to making sure that those that are doing the police work are taken care of. Right. If I'm a firm believer that. If some people have a misconception that, well, my job is to take care of the community. Well, I beg to differ, right? My job is to take care of those that take care of the community. Because if we take care of those that take care of the community, then we achieve great things. And of course, community safety is number one, but we have to take care of our officers.
I like it. And going back to the proactivity, and when did you see yourself, because you said you went and you had that urge to do back to going to proactive police work. When was a pivotal point where you're like, well, now I'm going to start taking this path to go start ranking up and getting, because now you're at the rank of major, so you went through these ranks. At what point were you like, you know what, I'm going to go because this is my journey now, like you said? So what point of your career was that?
So I think at the point that we work for a bad supervisor.
Yeah, I think
right?
that's a lot. Yeah.
I honestly, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes guys don't speak frankly about that, but along the lines, you work for a bad boss, and that boss motivates you to take that step, and then you work for another bad boss and makes you take that other step, right? And along the way, you go growing, without intention. And then you look back and you think, wow, look at everything I've accomplished.
Yeah. And now we got, you're going for the top boss now. Threw your hat in the name for sheriff. What made you make that decision to say, you know what? I think this is my path and this is what I want to do.
So I think that we're at a pivotal point, not only in law enforcement, but in our community, right? And it's crucial that we get it right. And what I mean by pivotal point, let's talk a little bit about what's affecting law enforcement. So a lot of officers seem to believe that this is an issue with morale, that officers feel that they're unappreciated. I don't think that's the case in Miami-Dade County, right? You as a City of Miami officer would know that our community loves us here.
Yeah.
For the most part, right? We have a great relationship with our community, and that's not the case with places like New York, California, Chicago, etc. But I think that there's a generational issue that's affecting law enforcement. And when we refer to numbers of, well, we're having a recruitment problem, I have to tell you that we are recruiting better than ever. We have less vacancies than ever. Now, do we have issues with recruitment, and did we lower our standards? Absolutely. I think we have to work on that. I think we have to raise our standards to get a better product in the long run. But the issue is that these young generation officers sign up to be officers. They go through the police academy, and 5, 6, 7 years into the job, they say, this is no longer for me. And they want to take on another career path. And we're losing officers monthly because of this, right? And I don't know if it's happening in the City of Miami, but I can tell you it happens in Miami-Dade County. And there's not that long-term career goal, I signed up to be a cop, crime fighter a mentality anymore. It's a bit different.
It could be a lot of factors in that, right? It could be generational, like you said, where back in the day, it was honorable to have the same job. The people that got their job as like an electrician or whatever, that was it. They were there for the rest of their life. Just like you get the guys that are in the department that they're patrol. I love patrol, and they're there their whole career, and they love it. Right, they're not sour because they got kicked out of another unit, or you got guys that go to homicide. We see now a lot these days, at least like you said, and I can't speak on your department's behalf, but it is the 2-3 years they're leasing the position, and they want to go try something new, and they get tired of it, and you could boil it all the way down to just like attention span, like swiping on the phone when you're just scrolling through stuff. They don't have that long attention span where they want to stay somewhere and grow that. So I think that could be the issue, right? And then also you just said in that sweet spot, like the 5 to 6 years, what's been going on in police work in that 5 to 6 years, you also had all the riots and protests and like that sentiment around the nation that people are just like, I'm not trying to get arrested for doing my job, right? And that goes with the staff up top to make sure, do they have my back? Am I going to go hands-on with this guy? If this guy, if I do something, am I going to get fired? So that's also a sentiment that somebody can say, it's not I got 5-6 years in, you probably just got married and you had your first kid, right? And they're like, oh man, I got something to live for here. I'll go be this guy or be that guy. So that could have something to do with it as well. It's just a problem everywhere, I think.
I think communication is key, right? When it comes to that. Does the department have my back? Question mark, right? That's a big question. Yeah. And sometimes actions speak louder than words. Yeah. Because I can tell you I have your back, but what are my actions? And that's a big question. And we need a sheriff that's going to stand for law and order, but that's also going to have the officers back. Yeah. Point, end of story, right? However, if there's improper behavior, then we have to deal with it, right? Because we're actually accountable to the community. But let's not forget that we're also accountable to our officers. When we make bad management decisions, that's a true morale breaker. Yeah. And it's a tough job. It's a tough position to be in. But at the same time, we have to protect our cops, right? Our cops protect us. And it's extremely important that we tell the entire story when it comes to discipline and when it comes to addressing concerns and always being transparent with the community, right? I'm a big believer, and I've been on the receiving end of this, where sometimes we don't get everything right. We're human beings.
Right.
Own it. Own it. When you own it, things tend to go in the right direction. We make mistakes. It happens.
Yeah. And we'll wrap up on this, but I think it's the squeaky wheel. You ever heard that squeaky wheel gets the oil, right? So that squeaky wheel is those people that maybe they don't like the police, right? And they want change, and they don't want you making arrest and everything. But that's one squeaky wheel. There's 3 others that are the silent majority. They're like, bro, you bitching and talking all that trash about you don't like the police. Now the chief fired these guys, and now I stopped seeing police driving around my neighborhood because they're all parked under the tree because they don't want to do any arrests. They don't want to be proactive. They don't want to stop the cars because they might get into something. The chief, they might fire them. So that squeaky wheel is one that people can find, because if you don't hear any other noise, you're going to tend to this. So I think it's up to like the silent majority, which will be the voters, right? Because I think this is the first time in 67 years that we're going to have a sheriff. So we're going to find out who the silent majority is if they want that. And I feel as though working in Miami-Dade County all these years is that we are a law and order county. Like, they want law enforcement. That's why during the George Floyd riots, those people, they were from outside that came in and started those riots. The communities, at one point, there was people on the edge of Overtown saying, no, don't bring that in here. You take that out there. We're good with our police. So they were coming in, and they knew when we made arrests, it was from out of town, L.A., from California, Portland. There were like these people that were flown in to agitate. So to wrap it up with a bow, I think people in Miami-Dade County are going to really appreciate somebody who comes in and says, we're about law and order. So that's the bow. We're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, we're gonna get into these new laws, right? And then also, before we do that, I also want to get you're running as a Republican or a Democrat?
As a Republican.
As a Republican, because this is a position, Sheriff, that you have to either run with either as a Republican, Democrat, or you can run as independent. But you're running as a Republican.
And I can tell you, Nick, I'm a conservative Republican, and it's important that I say that because. Your stance on things, it's extremely important,
right,
when it comes to who people are going to select to be their next sheriff.
All right. With that being said, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Jose Aragu, your candidate for Miami-Dade County Sheriff. This election is historic. For the first time in 60 years, you will be choosing your sheriff, which is a crucial responsibility. As your sheriff, I bring a wealth of experience in the police profession. Currently, a major in the Miami-Dade Police Department, leading the county in crime reduction. I am a graduate of the Naval Postgraduate School, the Harvard Kennedy School of Government, and FIU. I've also spent 21 years dedicated to law enforcement, leading crucial departments like Port Miami and working at Miami International Airport, the largest economic engines to our local economy. This isn't just about political experience. It's about a proven track record in keeping our community safe. It's not just a vote. It's your power to shape the direction of our community safety. Join me in this historic moment, and let's build a safer, stronger, and more secure Miami-Dade County together.
Back, baby. Bring me back. Woo! And we're back! You didn't know this, but on commercial break, I played your intro commercial for your campaign. You didn't know that.
Thank you, Nick.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So we didn't get into, before we move on to those new laws, we didn't really get into education, because I know you stopped at the what is it, the Cobras? Is that how it is? We stopped at Cobras. Is that where your education stopped, or do we keep going, or what happened? No, I'm just kidding.
I wish it would have stopped there, Nick. I wish. So, So I have a master's from FIU.
Okay.
The Panthers.
Okay, that's these guys.
Those
This
guys.
is the Cobras.
From
and
the Cobra to the Panther. In emergency management
Okay.
and disaster management. I also attended the Naval Postgraduate School and have an executive leadership degree from them.
Okay.
I attended the Harvard Kennedy School of Government and have a certificate from them in public policy. And I also went to the Southern Police Institute's executive leadership course, right? Among the many. And I think education is key, right? We're going to have to go through budget transitions. We're going to have to go through departmental transitions, legal departments, etc.
Right.
And preparation is going to be very important to bring to the table because there's a lot of work to be done.
All right. And the other thing that we kind of like just breezed through was, I think we spoke about sergeant and then we went straight to major. Was there anything important before we move on in there in between that you want to hit on? Any like big moments in your life as far as lieutenant or captain or wherever else in between?
Sure.
Yeah.
So as an officer, sergeant, and lieutenant, held same positions, right? In investigations, uniform services, which is the backbone of our department. I worked in Intercoastal District twice, which is a very busy district with high crime. Then I was the executive officer at the Port of Miami. So I oversaw K9, the motor unit, Harbor Patrol, our incident containment team, all high liability units within the Port of Miami that are vital to the day-to-day operations of the port. I was in charge of grant preparation. I did grant writing. I executed the grants. And while I was there, we were fortunate enough, as a result of that, to acquire almost $4 million in grant funding for new boats. We also acquired the TSA dog program that doesn't cost the port or the county any money. So the dogs are provided by the federal government. The maintenance is provided by the federal government, and there's also a stipend attached to each K9 team. So a lot of very big accomplishments. Throughout my career, I've received 53 commendations, several Medal of Valors, and to include Officer of the Month.
Yeah.
So nevertheless, just a lot of hard work.
Right.
And not all supervisors along the way were bad. Some were good and recognized the hard work that was done. So just a lot of experience in the tactical, in the investigative part, which is very important, right? To have a diverse resume,
right.
To understand all aspects of the department. I also had at the Port of Miami the Auto Theft Task Force, which the years that I were there, we had a record 2 years recovering stolen vehicles, which is a hot topic in our community, that were trying to be exported out of our port. So a lot of great work, wonderful opportunities, and then I've been the major in Midwest District for 4 years now, which is a large undertaking. In
a short summary, can you just tell me about those? Give me some stories about the auto theft and the part. I think that's interesting topic as far as, were they high end? Were they motorcycles? How did they do it? And where were they going to? So for the most part, all high end vehicles, right? And I think we are our own worst enemies as citizens, because most of these cases, people leave their keys in the vehicles. And in these high-end vehicles, what happens is if you leave the keys in them, the rear view mirrors remain open. And the bad guys know exactly what vehicle to target. And they drive up and down street blocks. When they see the vehicles that have their rear view mirrors open, they take them. And in most cases, they would end up in Broward County in a storage facility, whether they were cut up in pieces or in many cases shipped overseas in their entirety. And for the most part, they were going to either the Caribbean, and in some cases even across the pond, as we call it, into Dubai and other areas, which is pretty interesting. Yeah. Once the task force got a grip on the situation here in Miami-Dade County,
Then the bad guys were shipping vehicles out of Port Everglades and as far as up into Louisiana, which was great for us because they were no longer transiting through our port, but nevertheless they're still coming into Miami-Dade County to take these vehicles.
How would they do it? What was the paperwork? Is like one large horse wagon. Don't look into this container. Like, how'd they do it? Like,
no. So in
very
many of these cases, what you have is you have a title, a title that is processed through a tag agency. Of course, there's a dirty tag agency involved, right?
Okay.
And a lot of these vehicles are revinned with a fake VIN.
Okay, so they weren't trying to smuggle it. They
No,
were just
no.
This car,
no.
And this is the fake VIN, and this is the fake paperwork to go with that car.
No, you're right. Fake paperwork.
Yeah.
They clone a VIN number.
Okay.
And the vehicle ends up at the port of Miami.
Because I was thinking like a big thing of hay, and then you uncover the hay in the car. Is that what you were thinking too?
No.
Oh, she knows about cars. She knows about cars. She knows more than me about cars. So she was like, no. She used to own a chop shop. That's actually how we met.
I hope.
She helped me bring in the guy.
Nick, so it's
it's
it's very complex, right?
Yeah,
These
yeah.
crimes are very complex, and then you have these title companies, and it takes a lot of work. A lot of good detectives work at the Port of Miami. They do an amazing job at identifying these cars in conjunction with Customs and Border Patrol, right?
Yeah.
Let's not leave them out of this.
Yeah.
They do a great job.
No, yeah. I just wanted to touch on that, and because you're just going ping, 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 and you're jumping around. People don't understand like the knowledge that comes with doing each thing that you just named, the airport stuff and all the intricacies that it involves being at the airport, because there's a lot of moving parts, the port authority, like all that stuff. There's so many components to it, and knowing all of them is it's impressive. And I just wanted to take a moment to do that. With that, there's two new things that we should know about. These two new laws that are coming in, right? And I wanted to kind of get into that. Before I finish, was there anything else in regards to the progression of through the ranks that you wanted to hit, or did you hit them all?
Nick, for the most part, it's been a long career, right?
Yeah.
I've hit on some highlights.
How many years?
21.
21 years. Okay.
21 years, and it's been a great journey.
Yeah.
And along the way, there's been many responsibilities, many assignments. I hit on some of those key points.
Yeah.
But the most important thing is having a background that is a complete background, right? With different experiences, different accomplishments, because I think that's what we need in a sheriff.
Okay, perfect. And now we're going to get into these two new laws I wanted to talk about. One of them is directly, you guys deal with it, which is squatters, right? And the eviction process. As a municipality, as a city, police departments, we don't deal with that. Cities don't deal with that. The sheriffs do. And since you guys are the sheriffs, the Miami-Dade Police Department, soon to be Miami-Dade Sheriff's Office, you guys deal with corrections, the evictions, warrants. So one of these laws pertains to the squatters, and I don't think it passed yet. I think it passed, but it's not actually into law yet. I'm not sure. Do you have that one ready to go?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so my lovely assistant's going to pull it up. We'll read it a little bit verbatim. Oh, this is the...
I'm
she's
putting
going to...
it-
She
yeah,
knows.
it's right
Okay.
here.
All right.
It's
All
right
right.
here.
All right. Boom. There it is. All right. So we'll read it, and then you can just weigh in your thoughts on how this is going to affect the sheriff's office moving forward. So under House Bill 621, a property owner can request law enforcement to immediately remove a squatter from their property if the following conditions are met. The individual has unlawfully entered and remains on the property. The individual has been directed to leave the property by the owner, but has not done so. And the individual is not a current or former tenant in a legal dispute. So in Florida, it'll be quick and simple to reclaim your home from squatters, avoiding costly delays, litigation, and missed rents. So it's kind of absurd that this thing had to be brought up, like, hey, there's somebody in my property that doesn't live there. I didn't give permission, and they established residence. I need them out. But no, can't do it under the law. And now it's absurd that we even had to do this. But I've been to scenes where there's squatters, and unfortunately I have to tell the owners, and you're like, I'm sorry, this is something like a civil dispute that you're going to have to go and go into litigation and hire an attorney to get them out. That's crazy to me that I had to say that. It kind of, as a law enforcement officer, you have to enforce the law. You can feel a type of way, which I definitely felt a type of way, but at the end of the day, I couldn't do anything but enforce the law. So now we have this new law. How do you think that's going to affect, and can you weigh in? How, maybe you have some experience with this, because I'm sure throughout the course of your career, you've done some evictions or anything. But how do you think it's going to affect what you do now?
So I think this is great work on the legislation and on the governor's behalf. I think they're doing a phenomenal job staying up to date with current events in order to implement these laws. Now, as it relates to this, it's been a huge problem in our community with the squatters finding an abandoned property. They squat, the owner comes, now they can't be removed from the property. I think this is going to be very beneficial. And ultimately, what's going to happen is we're just going to displace these squatters out of Miami-Dade County, which is a great thing for the sheriff's office, right? Yeah. If you're going to squat, it's not going to be in Miami-Dade.
Yeah.
And if you do, you're going to go to jail. It's as simple as that, right? And we have a lot of landlords that pay on these properties, right? They're paying their mortgages. They're accountable for all these bills in association with their property. And once upon a time, they were waiting 3, 4, 5, 6 months with a squatter in their home, and they couldn't remove them.
It's crazy.
And it's ludicrous.
Yeah.
And now we can take them to jail, which is wonderful.
Yeah. Very soon.
Very soon.
Immediately. Did you tell them they had to leave? Yeah, they had to leave. You're not going to leave? Let's go. So, yeah, I love it. I'm a fan of this. I just couldn't imagine coming home and having somebody in my property. I don't know. Under the old laws, I might have lost my job. You're not going to be in my house. No. Or like I said, I would just move in with them. And we're living together. So I don't know. I would figure something out. But I couldn't believe that we had to pass this as a law. So message to the squatters, take that shit to New York.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Not here.
Not here. Not
or LA.
or LA. Oh, look, she threw it in there. Or LA. What else we got? Okay, so we're going to move on to another bill that was recently passed. And it was Alex Rizzo and Al Palacios that came up with this bill, this law that's going to be coming into effect. And I know that because on a previous podcast, I said that you had to be within 14 feet, which was incorrect. So update, guys. It's 25 feet. Just disclaimer: when we put out that podcast, it hadn't been passed yet, so nothing was concrete, and the initial information we got was 14 feet. However, now it's 25 feet, and if you're like, what the hell are you talking about? We're going to read it right now. It says this is the HALO law. It protects first responders while they're in the legal capacity, where they're doing their legal duties, and I'm going to read it verbatim so we can go over this, and you can tell me how this is going to affect law enforcement. And you might have even dealt with some people that you're going to be able to use this now on. Those that shall not be named. We got the bill provides, this is the HALO bill, provides that second degree. It is a second-degree misdemeanor for any person after receiving a verbal warning not to approach from a person he or she knows or reasonably should know is a first responder who is engaged in the lawful performance of a legal duty to violate such warning and approach or remain within that 25 feet of the first responder with intent to impede or interfere with the first responder's ability to perform such duty, threaten the first responder with physical harm, or harass the first responder. The bill defines first responder, so then it goes into what a first responder is. But basically now you give them a warning and you can take them to jail. That's basically the sum of what this is. And it says legal duties, which doesn't necessarily mean a traffic stop, because if I'm actively patrolling, right, and we were proactive police officers, proactively patrolling, or I'm walking up and down the train station, right, looking for any suspicious packages, trying to be highly visible, and somebody comes up, hey, well, why your uniform so tight? I can tell them, hey, my man, I'm doing my job here. I need you to go I need you to go stand over there. You don't have to be actively one-on-one with somebody for them to start recording, because if they start and you're on the thing, you're impeding me from making sure that everybody is safe here. So with that, I know you might have, may or may not have some run-ins with local police agitators. How do you think this is going to help, or does this violate the First Amendment constitutional right of these First Amendment auditors to do their job and make sure we're doing our job?
Nick, let me tell you. So
Yeah.
a First Amendment auditor
Yes.
and an agitator are two different things,
Agreed.
right? And there's a fine line. But the agitators want to say that they're First Amendment auditors, and that's not the case. So I have had run-ins with agitators, not a First Amendment auditor. And I have to tell you, this law is the right direction for law and order. And our officers are dealing with enough, right? You're on a scene, and this is a great conversation because you can relate. Whatever situation you're faced with, you're dealing with a subject on a scene, and here you have an agitator that shows up. Now your life is in danger. That other person's life is in danger, and you're dealing with a third party.
Yeah.
And this is perfect. This is perfect. I think that as a major today, or even as a sheriff in January of 2025, there's one individual in our community that I'll personally arrest. So I think this is wonderful, right?
Yeah.
I think this is wonderful. We have to hold people accountable for their actions, and we have to protect our police officers that are putting their life on the line every day for all of us.
And let me ask you, being a victim of this horrendous, no, I'm just kidding. So, being somebody who's engaged with these agitators, or somebody who's come up and you've been in that experience, what do you take away as what their end goal is? Like, they
To
want
be obnoxious, right? They want to be obnoxious, and ultimately they want to get you to a point for you to react, and that you're in a situation where there's an encounter, and now they have a lawsuit against the agency, against the officer, and it's totally uncalled for, right? But ultimately that's the reaction to agitate and to put you in a position where you can lose your job, and we have to protect our officers against that.
Has there been any time where they were straight up just being an auditor?
I don't think so.
Right?
I don't think so.
They hide behind that. No, I'm an auditor.
Correct.
I mean, you know why we probably haven't seen it? Because it doesn't get clicks. And I think that's the science behind what we got going on, right? Is let's get those clicks. I want to make this officer get a rise out of them. You know, one, if they are improper in their procedure, I can sue the city or whatever. But two, if I get them to react, and I'm going to put them on YouTube, and there's some monetary gain to that. So that alone is like, okay, so this is perfect, right? Because it's your job to make an officer pissed off at you. So you're intentionally going out there to do that. So, well, there's a new sheriff going to be in town, and there's a new law here that allows officers to mitigate that situation.
And look, I want to say this, right? Accountability is wonderful, right? But there's a difference between holding our officers accountable and being an agitator. So we need to know the difference. Yeah. And that's important.
Yeah. I think unprovoked, they're coming at you, just making fun of you and cursing at you. I don't know. I think we should be able to roast. If we keep it PG-13, sir, I think we should. If you become sheriff, I want you to put in a policy in there. You can roast. Just keep it PG-13 if you're getting roasted. We got to be able to jab back.
I think I like that.
Yeah, you got to be able to jab back. You know, keep it PG-13. If it flies in Avengers, you can say it. I think we should come up with that. But no, I just thought it was interesting that you have actually had experience with that, because I say it, and this here is going to be a huge resource for you to have. Maybe not you, but officers out there on the street that have to deal with these individuals. With that being said, You ready for a little break?
I am ready for a little break.
All right. When we come back, we're going to do some tabletop exercises. We're going to talk about some active shooter stuff, some street takeover stuff, some AI in policing. We got a whole bunch of stuff. I want to know how you would address it when you become sheriff. All right. With that being said, we'll be right back. If you're enjoying this historic conversation on what it's going to take to become Miami-Dade sheriff, make sure you go back. I created a playlist with all the different candidates. Go back and watch those so you guys can get a better feel for these candidates and what they have to offer. Now let's get back to the podcast. And we're back! All right. By the way, I have no idea what that commercial was. We're just going to put one in. All right. Let's get into some scenarios, what you would do when you become sheriff if something like these would arrive. And one of them is happening as we speak right now. I believe they're trying to get a handle on it, but there's a conflict going on between Israel and Palestine, and it's heated on both sides, and you see it now flowing into the universities, and they're protesting and doing a little bit more than protesting. They're taking over buildings, they're smashing property, they're fighting with police officers. Miami-Dade County has large universities in there, University of Miami, FIU. We have Barry University and other universities. I'm not sure. Oh, Miami-Dade College, right? So, as sheriff, something like this pops up. What are your plans to make sure everything goes smoothly?
Well, Nick, look, first and foremost, we're going to work with that agency, right? If it's at FIU, we have to work with the FIU Police Department, at Coral Gables, and Police, right? And ultimately, we're going to be called for mutual aid. And that behavior is not going to be tolerated. I am a advocate of peaceful demonstrations. There's a difference between the word demonstration and the word protest. There's a difference between our amendment right, that we have the right to demonstrate, and we should all have the opportunity to voice our opinions in a safe manner. That's extremely important, right? Safe manner, obeying other laws, climbing on buildings, tearing down walls, you name it, setting things on fire. Don't bring that to Miami-Dade County, because you're going to go to jail.
I like it.
Simple as that, right? We're going to have everyone in our community have a voice. We're going to let them peacefully assemble, but none of that lawlessness is going to happen here. And I think we've done a good job, a phenomenal job at that already. We saw it with the demonstrations with George Floyd, which you mentioned earlier. And I remember flying in from the Port of Miami in a helicopter to City of Miami headquarters, because they set a car on fire. And they were surrounding the station.
Yeah.
And
the battle at the back gate.
Remember the battle of the back gate? I remember I was there, right? I was in the command center. And I was there with the chief at the time, and we did a phenomenal job. And it was a joint venture, the City of Miami Police Department and the Miami-Dade Police Department. And I want to add something here. The relationships that we have with the municipalities as a police department and as a sheriff's office is amazing. And we need to keep it that way. And as long as we keep doing the right things, we're going to keep our city safe. You bring that to Miami, you're going to go to jail.
I like it. So keep it in New York and
LA.
There she is. So real quick, is it called a civil disturbance or a riot?
Well, it depends.
Okay.
I think here we've had civil disturbances,
Yeah.
with the exception of that incident,
Yeah.
right? To me, that was a riot.
Okay. I just
You burn a car,
All right.
it's a riot.
I agree. A lot of people throw around civil disturbance and like, that's a riot, bro. That's not a civil disturbance.
Sometimes we can't be politically correct,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes we have to rip that Band-Aid and call things what they are.
I like it. Yeah, because the moment you start dressing it up to be something else, it's like, no, that's a riot. That's a riot. Are you just trying to play politics? That's a riot. It's okay. It's okay. It's a riot. Just stop the riot. That's all you got to do. All right. So pretty good. All right. Let's talk about these little pesky boogers. Hey, popping up all over the place. Her favorite place to say in L.A. They're little street takeovers. These little rascally rabbits. They've been popping up over there, and then all of a sudden now they're down here, and they're doing it for views. These are not the guys from back in the day, the Fast and Furious days. I think maybe we were close to the same age, you know, when the drag racing was a thing. They would go to Okeechobee and they would take off. These are not those clowns. Maybe not so. But I had a Dodge Stratus. That was one of them. Fast and Furious, they had a Dodge Stratus.
You couldn't do much with that,
with two 12-inch subwoofers in the back. Okay, white Dodge Stratus. And I put, you know, the little hood lights. Okay, no horsepower on there at all. But I put the two little hood lights, and that was my Fast and Furious. Everyone did something when Fast and Furious happened, and that was what I did. I souped up my car by putting the two little washer fluid lights on there. Anyways, I got off topic. What I was trying to say, even if I wanted to be a street racer, I couldn't in the Dodge Stratus. Okay, going back. So these guys are popping up all over the place. We see them on social media, and like I was saying, they're not the drag racers. These guys are doing it for the clicks and the views. They're doing it for the lawlessness. They're doing it for to show that they'll take it over, and it's becoming a cancer, right? Because the moment they get clicks, other people see it and say, I want to do that. I want to do that. And they're stepping it up. It started from just takeovers to lighting things on fire to now when law enforcement officer comes, they're attacking the law enforcement officer, come to a point where they shot a mortar shell. The fireworks that go up in the air, they shot it at the officer when he was trying to effect an arrest. He's like, holy shit. And it blew up. And then the other guy took off running. It's becoming, in other words, it's becoming a shit show. What are your plans as sheriff to address this stuff happening here in Miami-Dade County?
So it's simple. You go to jail. No, but there's more. There's more.
You go to jail. Look under your seat. You go to jail.
There's more, right? There's more to this. So first and foremost, if you're partaking in the action, you're going to go to jail. But if you're watching, you're also going to go to jail. Right? It's as simple as that. Because if you're there as a spectator, you're part of the problem. Mm-hmm. There's law-abiding citizens that are in traffic and these intersections, and someone's going to get hurt. They've already gotten hurt, right? Not only are citizens, but individuals that are partaking in this behavior. Yeah. And we also have to work with our legislation. I think that we're going to see more of what the governor signed and maybe get a little stricter on these street takeovers. Hopefully we see that next year. So we have to work with our legislator. We have to work with our state attorney's office to make sure that the penalties are harsh on these individuals and no tolerance, because everybody's life is at stake. They're all in danger, including our officers, which can get hurt going to these situations.
How do you plan on physically catching them, right? Is there any policy changes you plan on the moment that vehicle takes off? Like, there's only so much we can do with resources, policy, equipment to stop. Now, FHP, on the other hand, their policy opened up a little bit more that it doesn't matter what it is you're running. The moment you accelerate away from them, they're going to pit you into the wall, and that's just the end of it, and then they take you to jail. Do you plan on maybe revisiting some of the policy, looking that over to allow your guys to do something, maybe bring in some technology like the grappler that is been deployed recently up in Hollywood successfully? But is there anything that you plan on doing?
So we definitely have to look at new technologies, right? As police evolve, we have to evolve. Technologies help us tremendously. I gotta tell you, the chase policy is something that worries me, right? A lot of individuals say, well, we should chase. Well, chasing is wonderful. The problem is that we're in a city that's extremely populated, and most of the time the people that get injured in a chase are that family that's driving in a minivan with two kids with mom and dad, and they lose their life. So I'm not a fan of chasing. If you commit a forcible felony and you hurt an officer or you do an armed robbery, we're going to chase. Right. But for a street takeover, we'll do our intelligence and we'll get you another day. But we're definitely going to look at technologies to evolve as a police department. And maybe they come up with some sort of net, right? That maybe we can just shoot from a helicopter and grab them out in the net.
Have you seen the grappler one? The grappler one that goes into the wheel and ties up the wheel and then it's tethered to the car? I was like, man, that... I know that chasing is dangerous, but and we're just talking now in a pursuit, right? Okay, it's a forcible felony. Now what? The car's either going to wreck out, it's going to wreck into somebody, or they're going to give up, which that would be great if they all gave up. But if it meets the threshold, we still got to come up with a way to be able to stop those individuals that are in that car. And that, like you said, Maybe the net. Hey, if you're out there, get that net. But it's just something that I don't know.
Look, Nick, I got to tell you, we have to do better as a county.
Yeah.
And deploy better cameras in our intersections, right?
Yeah.
I think, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later on in technology.
Oh, yeah, we can go right into it.
Yeah, we can.
You want to stop right here? Watch this. Ready? All right, let's talk about technology and AI policing. What do you?
That's a good one.
What do you plan on bringing to the department as sheriff? What kind of new technologies and AI or whatever you decide you're going to be bringing into the police world? Let's go.
So I think it's extremely important that we identify those areas that are affected by more crime than others, right? And deploy cameras in these intersections. Not red light cameras to catch someone that took a red light to give them a ticket. No, that's not the intention. It's for intelligence purposes. So if we were to have these high-tech cameras in these intersections, it'll help us tremendously in identifying these vehicles and their tag numbers, at least a description, right? Because in many of cases, we know that the vehicle has either a stolen car, a stolen tag, I should say, or it's a stolen vehicle.
Yeah.
But it gives us a clue. Right, and with a clue we can do great things.
Right,
but we do need the technology. We do need cameras in our major intersections where there's more crime, and all of that ties in into crime deterrence, crime prevention, which is extremely important. We have a real time crime center, so RTCC as we call it, that's pretty much functioning as our intelligence hub for the department. And I think they need access, they need funding, which we can go to the state or even the federal government to be able to expand on these programs, to have these high-tech cameras in all our major intersections. I think it'll be huge in the crime prevention aspect of things.
Yeah, the real-time crime center, it's basically a room with a whole bunch of monitors that is tied into cameras all around the city, or all around the county, all around the city. We integrated the body-worn cameras in there, the LPR systems. So you got everything kind of working in conjunction to assist these officers out there. It is not the future. It's happening now of police. When officers respond to a hot call, or there's an accident. Let's just use this one because it's easier. There's an accident at the intersection and the lights already cycled 100 times, whatever. They cycled so many times. You don't know, okay, who ran the red light? Who ran the green light? Well, now you got the real-time crime center can go review that footage and say, the black Jeep ran the red light and hit that red Camaro. So it's very important, especially now if you're with the, and I believe that you're going to see more of this in departments, because if not a lot of people, like you say, are leaving and they can't fill slots where there's always going to be crime. So you got to figure out ways to help with that crime. So maybe you have, for every one officer now, you have 5-6 cameras out there helping assist with that crime deterrence. So I believe that's the future there, that real-time crime center, things like that. So going out and getting grants and help funding that is very smart of you to say. And
we see a lot of cities that have it now, right? We see the city of Aragu, we see Sunny Isles.
Yeah.
And if they have a stolen vehicle that comes into their jurisdiction, they can track that vehicle live where it's at.
Yeah.
And 99% of the time, they apprehend the subject and recover the vehicle, right? So technology is our friend. We have to embrace it and move forward with it and take advantage of technology in our profession.
I wonder, I'm just throwing it out there, since you guys are the county and you blanket all these other municipalities, right, and they overlap within your jurisdiction, if something maybe you can do to integrate their systems into yours, because it's the same, right? So if things are running in and out, going through, you guys are the county, so you guys maybe can tap into Doral cameras and this. They're already existing, doesn't come out of your budget, and I'm sure somebody can come up with some software to be able, just like you said, the mutual aid stuff. Just get that agreement. Hey, can we tap into this camera? We're following this or that. Things are going to get crazy within like the next 5-10 years in technology. All right, so that was that. Let's go into something else. And this one's going to be, let me bring it down because it's a little bit serious, active shooters. So there were, Marty Stoneman Douglas is the closest one that we've had. It's right there in Broward County right there. And I say this and I knock on wood every single time. We kind of been just scraping along, skating by and not having something like that occur in our jurisdiction. Thankfully, it could be through the way that we police, right? It could be that we have a school board police. It could be for many reasons. But how do you plan on keeping it like that, or God forbid it does happen, mitigating the situation, stopping it quickly, and having your officers well prepared to deal with it?
So this is kind of like a loaded question, right? But
Yeah.
but it's a great question. So first and foremost, I think on the response, let's talk a little bit about the response. I told you that my master's degree is in emergency management and disaster management. And I think that one of the biggest takes from that is we have to train. And by what I mean by that is not do a tabletop exercise. It's hands-on training, life-based scenario training. We have to do a lot more of that, right? With our school board, with the sheriff's office to be, with our local municipalities. It's important that we're all on the same page. And many of times we have a lot going on as law enforcement agencies, and we have to unite and have these trainings together. I know we do a few a year, but we're not doing enough. And be better partners, right? What does school board need? What does the city of Miami need that we can help? And have that mutual understanding between agencies. But the answer to that is develop plans and train. I can't say train enough, right? And preparing our officers. We don't do anything by creating a specialized unit for every problem that can arise. So if we have a unit for school response, and we have a unit for crisis mental response, and we have a unit, you get the point, right?
Yeah.
A unit, no.
Yeah.
We have to go back to the basics and train our uniform patrol officer, which ultimately is going to be the first one to respond to that scene.
Yep.
If you work that area or that beat and there's an active shooter, that trained tactical officer that's responding, it's a secondary response.
Yeah.
That primary unit that arrives is going to encounter the first subject, the first shots. We need to do a better job at training our staff as a whole instead of creating a specialized unit every time we foresee that there's a specific problem in the community, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So training our uniform officer as best as we can, getting them out to the range, getting them out to these live scenarios, and coming up with the plans, but executing them. One thing that I've learned in emergency management is if you wait for the date of the incident to meet the people that are going to collaborate with you at that incident, you're behind the eight ball.
Yeah.
And we need to be proactive in these situations. And this is the first point in my campaign. So when I first decided that I was gonna be a candidate for the sheriff's position, I had my website done, and
Look, we're in the third one. What's your website? You see, bro, I always forget.
So my website is www.araguforsheriff.com.
Okay, there it is.
And in that website, you're gonna find my full resume. But you're also going to find the key points that I want to address as sheriff. They're clear, they're on point, and they're what I believe is a priority to this community, school safety being number one. I think we need to work with our school board, and I think we need to guarantee that every school has at least one police officer, which doesn't happen today. And some schools need two. Yeah. Some schools are in areas where we're putting our officer's life at risk being in that school by himself, considering that gun violence in our community now is mainly being done by kids, or I should say children between the age of 14 and 18 years old. And eventually they're going to introduce that firearm to the school, which they already do. And there's going to be a tragedy.
Yeah.
So we need to work on that as a community and rip the Band-Aid, as I say, and have tough conversations that sometimes we're not willing to have.
Yeah, I think that's the school stuff is important. And exactly what you said, right? You said 14 to that 18-year age, right? They go to school. The school board police is the jurisdiction in there, right? So that officer's in there. They have intel. Maybe they just don't. It happens during school hours, and they go on. And then that altercation happens out in the street, but the beef started in the school, and it would be great to have a working relationship with those school board police, trading intel. Hey, these two, and I don't know. I'm ignorant when it comes to that, and maybe we'll have a school board police representative on here one day to explain a little bit how that works, how they disseminate that information. Hey, Tommy said that him and Johnny are going to have beef tomorrow at the fighting tree. That's the way it used to be. You used to fight by the fight. You had a fighting tree at the Cobras?
Everybody had a fighting tree.
Everybody had a fighting tree. Off school property by the fighting tree. Yeah. Well, anyways, all right. So let's talk about some accountability for the police officers, right? It's good to have officers back, but it's good to also hold accountability for deputies now. They're going to be deputies. So the problem is that, like I said, that squeaky wheel, that maybe some chiefs around, you see it around the country, they're quick to fire their officers because of the people that are mad, right? Well, let's just say some kind of scenario happens, and it happens, right, where there's a snippet of an incident that is out on social media, maybe even on Lifestyle Miami or Olean Day or somewhere along those lines, and it's viral, and there's people mad, and and being a social media guy, you see the comments, and they're furious, and they want something done, and all of a sudden those comments turn into people standing in front of your police department, the main headquarters, and they're starting to gather, and they're telling them, come on down here because we want this officer's head on a stick. We want it on a spike, and we're not going to leave here until you give it to us, right? But you have the body-worn camera footage, tells the whole story, and even though that one snippet does not look pretty, police work's not pretty. Sometimes you got to do stuff, and it just doesn't look good. I don't know any other way to say it, but it's by policy, and maybe these protesters or these people that are upset, they don't understand your policy. They're ignorant to your policy, but they want that officer's head on a stick. And now you're the sheriff, and you got this footage. Maybe you don't want to mess up the investigation, but you got to do something because it's starting to become a little bit of a pain in the ass, where they're starting to get a little agitated. So how do you plan on handling a situation like that? Let's just call it maybe an officer-involved shooting, and somebody lost their life, or critical where they might lose their life.
Nick, we released a video, right? Bottom line, there needs to be
Sheriff. I'm the homicide guy. Don't do it. You're gonna mess up my case. What do you do?
We released a video.
Okay.
We released a video,
Yeah.
right? Look, there's a certain level of accountability,
Right.
right? That we owe to ourselves, and we also owe that to the community, and we need to adhere by that. I go to a lot of community meetings, and what I hear is there's distrust. And how do you build on distrust? You're transparent. That's extremely important. And then you talk about the independent review panel. That comes up a lot. Well, what's going to happen with the independent review panel? And
what is that, by the way?
So it's a board.
Mm-hmm.
It's a board that gets to see every case that comes to us as an internal affairs file. Once it's closed, they get to review the case and see the officer's actions, were they proper, improper, etc.
And these people that are on the board, are they law enforcement officers, or are they the general public, civilians?
So some are general public,
Yeah.
And in many cases there's probably an officer or two. Governor DeSantis just passed a law with these independent review panels that now the sheriff is going to have the right to appoint a board, and at least one of those members needs to be a ex-law enforcement officer, and they're going to be operating under the purview of the sheriff. Of
Okay.
course, that costs money,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Any board, any initiative costs money. But then I think to myself, why would we create a board if we have accountability and transparency. I think we can be a little bit more transparent in our internal affairs process. I don't mean release information that can be damaging to the officer. That's not what I mean. What I mean is we explain the process. And sometimes we don't do such a good job at explaining on how the process works and how our officers are entitled to due process, just like a criminal is.
Yeah, I don't think many people know that.
And it's important to educate, right? I think everything, it's on the basis of education and transparency. And that's why it's very important to understand the police department and understand the process. I currently sit on a lot of these panels, right, that impose discipline on the officers, and we determine whether the officer is exonerated, whether the officer is held accountable for his actions, right? But the bottom line is we release the footage and we're held accountable, just like the community is. I think that's very important. But there's going to be no officers on a stick, right? I can tell you that. Yeah. There's going to be due process because, you know, I think that if there is officers on a stick and it's very premature, we make mistakes. And we've seen that happen over and over again in other states in this country. So we put the information out and then we handle it. And I mentioned before, if it's a bad action, we own it.
Yeah.
You got to own it. You got to own it.
I agree because then it becomes worse. The truth will always come up to the top. It's always going to raise up to the top one way or another. We operate under public records. Everything can be accessed. It's better just to say, hey, this is what's going on. It is. And people, I think the way, and you mentioned it, right, the education thing. The way that you get away from things like that, right, is don't be reactive. Be proactive in educating. Be proactive in meetings. Be proactive in all that stuff. And you're just putting little pennies away in that savings account for one day that, oh, shit, this doesn't look that good. You got to pull from that savings, and you are able to say, well, wait a minute. This was one incident, but look at all this stuff that happened in between that, you know? So I think that's very important for a police department to have that, and you mentioned something about that earlier. With that being said, I think we hit it all on that, and I think we're going to get into the hot seat. If that wasn't hot enough, we got some questions from the audience, and if you guys aren't following me, Nick Off Duty Presents on Instagram. And one more time, where can they find you on Instagram?
Aragu for Sheriff.
All right, on Instagram, and that's Facebook and pretty much X, right? Twitter?
I don't have Twitter.
No Twitter. Facebook and Instagram.
Yes. I'm getting used to this technology thing.
Yeah. You're doing pretty good. So make sure you go follow them over there and then go over to the website. I can read it off your shirt, araguforsheriff.com.
Yes.
Yeah. And then you can donate. You can join the campaign if you like what you're hearing, right? Anything else they can do over there? I think it's pretty much it, right? And learn about you. With that being said, we'll be right back and we get to those hot seat questions. Oh, hey. Didn't see you guys there. Just want to take a second to let you know we're broadcasting from Feds Apparel. If you're police, fire, civilian, basically if you wear a uniform, Feds Apparel is the place for you. Visit fedsapparel.com today to check out all they have to offer. I even have a store on there. Feds Apparel, uniforming America. Now let's get back to the show. Hey, we're back! All right, let's turn that laughter down. It's time to get serious. We're in a hot seat here. Super hot, muy caliente. You see the lights went red. That's right. You could feel it, baby. You could feel it. All right. Well, welcome to the hot seat where people, they sent in questions, and we're going to ask you the questions. We're going to read out the handles. If you want to be featured on this portion, send in your questions on Nick Off Duty Presents. Follow us there, and you'll get all the prompts on who's coming and what you want to ask them. You send them to me, and I'm going to ask them here. Starting with this first one, the lovely assistant's going to take it. What do you got over there, baby?
Okay, from True to End.
True to Ends.
Yeah. How do you plan to keep Miami-Dade as one of the best departments in the nation?
You forgot that. It says besides City of Miami.
I should have said that.
He's kidding. So we have to invest, right? We have to invest in our salaries. I think we need to look at the base salary bracket for our officers. I think it's below the national average, and the taxpayer sometimes might look at that as he wants to spend more in police. right? We're a world-class city now. We start to see that, right? They want to call us the next New York, the next LA,
Hope not.
but as world-class,
Okay,
right?
okay.
Not as crime-ridden
Okay.
world-class, but our officers are working a lot of off duties. We're seeing that in order to make the mortgage.
Yes.
Cost of living is a lot higher now,
Yeah.
and that plays a big part into mental wellness. If your officers don't have that mental break, then they will break. And if they made a little bit more money, then we can help that. I think property values are very expensive in this county. Therefore, the county's collecting more property taxes. Therefore, I think we can invest a little bit more on our public servants. So that'll keep us world class, right? I think that's a big point. And we're also going to invest a little bit of time and money into physical wellness. How do we get our officers maybe some time to be able to work out, right? And come up with a plan so that they can be healthy. And just investing a little bit in our own is important.
I like it. Yeah, man. If you have them nice and healthy, they'll be happier to go out there and protect and serve, right? Not tired, looking for Celsius, not sponsored by Celsius, by the way, or cafecitos or things like that. And you got some good energy, feeling good. Man, what a service you're going to provide to the community. All right, we're going to Officer DeSantis. He says, "What color will our uniforms be?" Also, Nick, I need a challenge coin, brother. That's what he said. So a lot of questions as to new sheriff in town. What's going to happen with the uniforms, with the cars? Are we changing everything? Are you going to wear a big cowboy hat? I don't know. What's the plans?
Well, look, I don't know, right? That's the answer. I will tell you this. Our current uniforms are stuck in the 1950s. I don't think they've changed. We need something more comfortable for our officers, like polo shirts like you guys have in the city of Miami.
Yeah.
And some more up-to-date uniforms, pants, shirts, etc. But we do need to look uniform. It seems like in the Miami-Dade Police Department, there's too many uniforms, and we need to come down to maybe a few uniforms that everyone can wear. And we look uniformed, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what the word really means. But something more comfortable, something with the times, as I say.
Yeah.
I don't know about the color. Maybe we'll run a poll, right? What do the officers want?
I like
Do they
it.
want to go to green, or do they want to stay wearing the brown, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. But maybe we'll look into it, right? And see what they want.
That's another thing is those uniforms, man. It's another thing about investing in the officers, right? If you do get comfortable uniforms, it's good for the officers. Man, we're in the hot seat. It's like 93 degrees in here. Working outside in those polyester uniforms, then you got to wear the vest and then those pants and then it's like the starchy. It's a little bit of a nightmare. Everybody had to do it, but it'd be a lot better to do it comfortable. All right. What do you got over there?
Okay, so get box D3
Whoa,
underscore.
Stop cursing.
Sorry, I mean.
Get bucks, are you saying?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought she was throwing a curse word at you.
What year do you join the force?
2003.
Boom. Next question. Not too hot. Get bucks. Got to step it up, man. Here we go. Let me get into this next question. This is one of the good ones here. Oh, RAH.toes. Raw toes. Whatever. It says, what are some things you need to sacrifice when starting a sheriff career? So essentially you get elected sheriff and you kind of going to have to sacrifice some things in your life, maybe personal, maybe professional. I don't know if you have a business on the side, but what are some things you got to sacrifice?
So I don't have a business on the side. This is my only source of income. And I think the biggest sacrifice is my family, right? Which is a huge sacrifice. I have 3 kids, and I love my children. I love to spend time with my kids and my family. My wife is also on the department. She's a sergeant. And luckily she understands, but it's a burden on me. It's a burden on me now, right? Because working and running a campaign, it can be very strenuous at times.
Yeah.
but it's a balance, right? So some individuals say, well, take a leave of absence. Well, then you abandon your community, right? So you abandon your officers. So it's a balance between, do you want to continue to serve and be there for your community and your officers, take a leave of absence, the family, but definitely the family piece. It's going to be rough, but it's for the betterment of all, I think, right? As long as we continue to promote law and order and continue to go in the right direction. My children grew up in this community, right? They're growing up in this community, and I want them to make sure that they see that I'm doing my part to keep our Miami-Dade safe as Miami-Dade residents, right? I've lived here my whole life since we got here from Cuba, and I think it's a wonderful community, and we're doing our part.
All right. You got the last one?
I got the last one from crypto _ division.
Mm-hmm.
Not enough road units on the road. Too top heavy. What are your thoughts?
And I think what he's saying is there are not enough patrol officers and too much staff. I don't know. Any thoughts on that?
So I agree.
Yep.
I agree with him. I think that our response times are a concern for me, and it's because of staffing shortages on the road. It's not just top heavy. We do need to reorganize and re-strategize our mission. Most officers are doing the best they can, but our response time to a non-emergency call today is about 25 minutes, and for an emergency call is 7 minutes. And we know, as police officers, or as maybe someone that has called 911, 7 minutes is a very long time to wait for an officer.
Yeah.
And so we need to look at units within the department that are administrative, and we need to look at redeploying our resources where it matters, which is in uniform services, not only for our officers, but for that are overworked out on the road, but for our community. I think our community expects more from us. They want to see more police officers, more police cars, more community policing. And how do we get there? We get there by realigning our mission. And in regards to top heavy, I do agree. I think there's a lot of command, and we need to move away from that and streamline that a little bit, because at the end of the day, if span of command is 1-to-1, it's not feasible.
No, I agree. All right. I'm going to read one more, and this is by the second best looking DJ we have ever had on this podcast, the City Ralph. You know who you are. Yeah, that's right. Well, a buddy of mine who works with me, he comes on when she can't make it, just to watch the kids, and he DJs, so I call him the second best looking DJ on this podcast. His name is the City Ralph. How do you balance the wants of the community as well as the needs and morale of the department?
Nick, I think the balance comes with listening, right? I think you need to listen to your officers, and you need to listen to the community. I'm a firm believer that any leader that fails to listen fails. And balancing both increases morale within the agency, but allows the community to feel that we're there for them and that we are accomplishing the mission that they have us there to do. It's not just about the community, it's about our officers, and we need a leader that understands both, and that's extremely important.
All right. With that, you got any uppity beat music? Hey, we're done with the hot seat! You made it, you survived. Play that uppity beat music one more time. All right! We're going to end it, the hot seat there. And I wanted to talk about, before we go, is these, you have a lot that you're running on, but there was three main things. One was school. If you wanted to touch on that, I think that's important. That's the whole reason why you're here, is to let everyone know who you are, what you stand for, and what you're running on. So if you just touch up on those last two things that you said, schools, or if you want to go over real quick the three, it's on you. Stage is yours.
So the schools, thanks, Nick. The schools is a topic we already discussed. Then let's go into policing, right? We need to do a better job at proactive policing. And what I mean by that is not a cast net approach to policing. It's strategically addressing those areas where crime is being generated. So we continue to build trust with the community, but we're addressing those concerns and those criminal elements that are affecting a specific area or community. I want to create a crime commission board on that topic that sits with the sheriff and has conversations as to how can we do things better. As law enforcement officers, sometimes we are the ones that appear to have the answer to everything, and the reality is we don't.
Right.
So I want to create a commission board comprised of the community, psychologist, psychiatrist, criminologist, that we all sit at a table, social workers, and we discuss those areas that are prone to crime and how we are going to address them. That's going to be extremely important from a strategy standpoint to reduce crime and to address those focal points in the community without prejudice. It's extremely important. Then another point is traffic. Traffic in our county is in very bad shape. We've lost control of traffic. We see that there's individuals riding scooters and I don't know if they're like motorbikes on sidewalks with no license, and it's an issue, right? We saw that a young boy was killed in Key Biscayne, and nevertheless is affecting us. So we need to restore traffic order. We need to increase our traffic unit, have more motors out there assigned to policing districts to address those crime, I shouldn't say crime, but those traffic concerns that the community is expressing daily to us as a police department. And listen, educate, right? Whether education is a warning or citations, but get our county back in order as it relates to traffic. Then another point is mental wellness, right? We see that mental wellness is heavily affecting our community, especially with the homelessness. We're starting to see that there's more and more homeless in Miami-Dade County. And recently, the city of Miami Beach passed a resolution or a city ordinance that they warn a homeless, and the second time they encounter them, they went ahead and arrest them, or they go ahead and arrest them, I should say. And what happens is they end up being released from our jails, and they're ending up in unincorporated Dade. So Miami Beach resolved their issue, but now it becomes a Miami-Dade County Sheriff's Department issue. Right. So how do we work together to come up with laws and ordinances that help us all, not just a single city, is extremely important. We also see that 70% of our jailed population is mental health. So it's a revolving door, and it's costing us, the taxpayer, a lot of money. How are we fixing that? How are we working with our jail system to ensure that they're coming out and getting the right treatment so that they don't end up right back in the jail system and the increased homeless population, right? So that's another topic. And transparency. Transparency is a big one for me. Transparency and accountability. And I want to create a podcast.
Whoa! I can help you out, sir.
I'm looking forward to it. So I want to create a podcast with the sheriff. I think that the sheriff needs to be able to connect with the community. Yeah. And the community connect with the sheriff is going to be very important to come up with solutions to real problems. And no filters, right? Just the hot seat, as you call it.
I like it.
I think that's extremely important because we are here for the people, and sometimes there's going to be good news, sometimes there's going to be bad news. Yeah. And as police agencies, we're very good at talking about the great things we're doing, but not so good at the things that are going wrong. And we need to have that transparency. So those are just some topics, right? Homeowners associations is a big one that we're seeing, that we see a lot of elderly losing their apartments because they're increasing the homeowner association. They can't pay. The police gets dispatched. They talk about it being a civil matter. In most cases, it's actually criminal. So we need to create a task force to deal with homeowners associations, to deal with the issue with the car and home insurance fraud. They're staging accidents in our community daily in order to go to these clinics and get money right through the insurance carriers, and therefore we're all paying more money in insurance. Housing, same thing. They're making all these fraudulent claims on their house insurance, and it affects us all. I don't know about you, but I've gotten my renewals recently, and they're almost double.
Yeah, and she does all she handles the books. I just bring in the money.
Not too crazy, yeah.
So,
but not too much, but increased a little bit. I got around $1,000. Nothing too crazy.
A lot of that is as a result of fraud, right? So we need to create a task force that's just dedicated to handle this insurance fraud. And I think it'll help our community, especially our elderly that might be out of an apartment or their home because they can't afford these high rates. But nevertheless, those are just some of the points in my platform. I had them up day one when I announced my campaign. And I think it's very clear and transparent for us to be transparent with our community, because ultimately is what we're going to do for them, not who we are as individuals. It's about the community, not about me.
With that being said, I want to thank you. I know you're a busy man. You got a lot of campaigning going on. Thank you for coming by and joining us. And I like the no-nonsense sheriff talk, man. I really like that. I think it resonates with me. I like it. Just straight to the point, you know. Thank you again for coming by. I'm going to pass it over to the lovely assistant.
No, same. Thank you for coming and talking to us. It was a great conversation.
All right. And with that, I'll give you a little handshake here.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you.
See you on the next one.